Ladies and gentlemen, welcome today. I'm so excited, so elated because of the work that has really been going behind the scene to have this production. So Take It From Me is a podcast that I really want a lot of you to learn a lot of information in technology, a lot of information in digital marketing, a lot of information in artificial intelligence, what we call AI, creativity and innovation across board, and especially in Africa. So today we are having our first episode, and my guest today is somebody that I truly trust, and I've gotten inspired from learning a lot from him for the span that I started knowing him. I think it's like 2 weeks now, and I've really learned a lot from him, and I'm so excited to have him on board today. So Moses, karibu sana to this podcast.
Thank you so much. Asante sana.
Asante. I am honored that you're my first guest, by the way.
Thank you for having me.
That is what you should really, you should know. When we are growing, you'll know that I was the first person to be on that podcast. So today I'm very excited. And to start us off, who is Moses?
Well, thank you so much for having me, John. And I think for me, if I look at various parts of my life, I think first and foremost, I think of myself as a father and a husband.
Okay.
I'm also an entrepreneur. I've been running a company called 𝐁𝐑𝐎𝐴, which I started in my bedroom back in 2002. So you can imagine that business has been around for 23 years.
I was in class 2.
Really?
Yes.
So that's when I started my company.
I was in class 2.
I've worked in the internet space since more or less the very beginning. I mean, my first job in the industry was, I think, back in 1997, when we were first connecting people to the internet.
I don't think I even started school then.
Yeah, so you can imagine, right? We're talking practically almost 30 years that I've worked in this space. And those days we're connecting people to the internet using the regular phone lines before mobile devices. I also, and 𝐁𝐸𝐴 is a digital marketing agency, right? And then also I've been blogging for probably, I think, the last 15, 16 years, writing about all things technology in Kenya and Africa. Like yourself, I've also been running a podcast, which is called Pure Digital Passion, probably for around the last 4 years or so. But that in a nutshell is who I am. And as somebody who's just very passionate about technology, very passionate about digital marketing, and essentially all things digital within Kenya and, of course, the rest of Africa.
Okay. So now my question would be, for the last 20 years, 30 years that you've been in this industry, what would you say is your superpower? What do you think makes you stand out?
Well, I don't know whether there's anything that'll make me stand out. I mean, of course, when I first started my career...
The reason as why I'm also asking you this is because, and I think I shared it with you, I just Google search the people in this space and you came out at the top. So I'd really want to know what's that one thing that even the Google, the ChatGPTs, the Geminis, every one of those ones, they know you. Well, I think it comes back to this area that we now call personal branding these days, right? Where people are using social media to publish digital content, right? So as you can imagine, I've been podcasting now, I think, for over 15 years, blogging for over 15 years. I've been putting out a lot of thought leadership. I create content. And often my content is more so, I think, of an educational nature, meaning I share information with people about things that are happening around the world, things that are happening within the technology and digital spaces in the region. I'm a regular speaker at conferences. I moderate events and activities. And I think that body of work, all that information that's online is why my name is getting surfaced, right? And I think this is something that I encourage every individual today to do, that you need to be putting out stuff on the internet that kind of speaks to your profession, speaks to your expertise, speaks to your passions, you know, and that information then becomes the currency that things like, you know, the ChatGPTs and the Googles are able to then identify and find you. And I cannot tell you how incredibly rewarding it has been to be a contributor of content online and insights from this part of the world. But more importantly, what it's done is that it's allowed me to position myself, my business, and everything I do
heads and shoulders above, many other people because I simply put out the content.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that I'm the smartest or the best, but the mere fact that I put out stuff almost obsessively. And I like to tell people, like we were discussing earlier, that everything and anything is content. And sometimes the content that you think is trivial or possibly not important is the very content that sometimes opens an opportunity for you because somebody somewhere sees it, it resonates with them, and then it opens a door. And by extension, that builds your personal brand.
Because that is true, because most of the time you can hear maybe the content creator or somebody would say, hii video nilishoot tu nikiwa kwa nyumba just winging it. And it's the video that has millions and millions of views. So I think what you're saying is very important in terms of branding, personal branding, putting out your content there, and just believing in yourself.
And I think authentically showing up, meaning when I say authentically, you're not pretending to be somebody else. You're being you. The authentic, unvarnished, and perfect self is what people want to see. Which is why sometimes you'll even do podcasts and you find that the behind the scenes video has even more traffic than the actual podcast you did, because people love to see that unvarnished, authentic trueness, because it almost makes them feel like they have a closer connection with you. And even podcasts are like this, where we just have a conversation as if we're sitting in Java, and it feels like you're almost intruding or listening in on this private conversation.
Now, there's something I've always wanted to ask you, and this is because I've read one of your blog posts, and you were talking about how when you walk around Nairobi, you'll see most billboards has AI images, AI content. So my question to you is this: is AI being resourceful to the marketing, to the digital marketing out there, or is it that the brands are trying to save money and losing that human touch?
I think it's an and situation, not one or the other, right? Meaning today, right? If you're a small SME, a small mama mboga, or a small biashara or hustler, the fact that you can go to ChatGPT or Gemini or any AI tool for that matter, and you can put in a prompt and you get back, a content calendar that will be allowing you to run nice content every day of the week for the next 1 month. And maybe this whole effort is no more than 20 minutes of your time. I feel that is probably the biggest opportunity here, right? The empowerment aspect, right? So even the smallest businesses now are able to elevate their game using AI in a way that was previously impossible before ChatGPT, which came out about 3 years ago. For the larger businesses that are established, they're always looking at ways of optimizing their costs, optimizing how they do things. And for them, what it means is that if they're using AI-generated creatives, the reality is that they're not doing expensive shoots, they're not having to pay for model releases, they're not having to pay for locations, but they have what is something that looks pretty decent and possibly serves the purpose in terms of allowing them to actually roll out campaigns and marketing communications. You also find that the turnaround time, right, the effort and the time required, maybe in a traditional, conventional way, if I had to use photos or videos of people, that whole production effort could be maybe more than a month. Now, in a matter of days, you can have something usable. So, I mean, on one hand, yes, there's question marks around. Obviously, you see that billboard, that video, and you can tell that was AI generated. And maybe that won't resonate as well with consumers because we like to see things that look real. But I'd say in the next 2-3 years, chances are we'll really not be able to tell between an actual person and a virtual person. And that's going to be an interesting place to be, because a lot of traditional operators or practitioners in areas like video production or photography or graphic design, even movies, exactly. Like there's a tool called Google Flow. I don't know if you've seen Flow before. It sits on top of Veo 3, which is a video generation model. I've been playing around with it, and it's absolutely incredible. I mean, you can actually create a movie scene by scene using Flow. But the reality is that people are going to lose their jobs. The industries are going to be disrupted. But like any transition in technology, this is what happens. I mean, look at this podcast. You and I are sitting here. We have a wonderful production team here. We're sitting in a lovely space. And if you think back 20 years ago, this was impossible. Now we can create this content. It'll go on platforms like YouTube and Instagram and so forth, long form, short form. And suddenly we are, this podcast is like a media house operating very efficiently, very agile because of the advent of technology. And I think technology does this in many, many ways, where every subsequent generation of that technology, as it becomes more mainstream, becomes more affordable, opens up opportunity for many people to do something that was previously impossible.
Yeah.
And I think for big brands and even marketers today, like the other day, I think I passed a billboard, I think for Blue Band, and you could see clearly the visuals were AI.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Blue Band is probably, the company behind them is probably a very big spender on marketing.
Yeah.
They're probably saving a hell of a lot of money doing it that way
Doing
now.
that, yeah. So my question also would be this. What becomes the people, for example, if somebody is how do we call them, these ones that they act, you come, say a company calls you, you go and do a skit for them in terms of marketing. So now, in terms of those people, do you think they're going to lose their jobs? Do you think is there something they need to change so that also they are not being left out in that space? Because, for example, when a company, for example, is doing a shoot about a family and there's a product they want to advertise, of course, they'll have a whole family coming. But now you find that nowadays they'll get all those information from the AI and all. So you'll find that these people that we have currently in Kenya, they don't have that.
So
you'll find that hata pesa sasa wewe kama common mwananchi hautapata because now they are getting all these things from online.
Well, the first thing you need to look at a business. What is a business's job? A business's job is to go to the market, deliver a product or service that meets a market requirement and do it with a profit margin. If I know as a business that I can do what I was doing 10 years ago at a quarter of the cost and a quarter of the effort, would I consider it or not? I would.
Of course, right? You would.
And I think even at this stage, we must say that probably a lot of these brands, organizations, let's just be honest, they're probably in the experimental stage. We've seen brands like Safaricom started very long ago, 2 years ago, doing some of these things.
Yeah.
And I think everyone is still experimenting. They're learning as they go. They're trying to see, does this make sense? Does it not?
Yeah.
Consumers see it and they can tell immediately that this is AI generated, for instance.
Yeah.
But the business is always going to try and optimize for revenue.
Yes,
but at the same time trying to ensure that they adhere or maintain their brand values, their brand equity, so they don't lose what actually makes them special.
Okay.
But on the side of the practitioners, the actors, the video producers, the location managers, and all the people who are required to create a production.
Yeah.
The reality is that I'm sure by now they've already seen the flow collapse under them, meaning that all the business they used to consider to be, guaranteed is no longer the case. Clients will try new approaches that make sense, and AI is opening up that possibility. Now, what can they do differently? I think what we need to appreciate is that practitioner has a lot of subject matter expertise that the average person doesn't, meaning that they can go into a tool like, let's say, Google Flow or ChatGPT, and they can start to use that, those 10,000 hours they've acquired to start to refine and maybe use that background to use that tool better than anyone else.
Yeah.
So imagine a professionally trained video production manager goes into a tool like Google Flow, understands how to create great content anyway, traditional, but now applies that knowledge into the AI tool.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to see happening. The same way that you had traditional photographers who were using film and then now moved to digital cameras. They're able to take the experience from traditional conventional cameras and apply that know-how and expertise and 10,000 hours in the digital realm. So it's a more question of them upskilling and acquiring the skill sets to operate within the AI space, where they now will master these tools and potentially be able to be the best practitioners around the new practices.
Okay. Now, coming back to digital marketing, I want to ask you something like in regards to maybe the challenges that you've seen out there or mistakes that you've seen brands making. And I'll give you an example. For instance, a client would come to me and be like, biashara yangu haileti pesa, biashara yangu sioni any change. And then now when you go to their social media platform, number one, you'll find that there's less posts or there's no content at all. And then when you try and tell them, like, because for them it will always be, I want to do adverts, I want to do this.
I want to sell.
I want to sell. But in you know that selling is okay, but at the same time, what you're putting out there is very important. How have you branded yourself as a company? What is the content that you're showing your consumer out there? In terms of even the consistency of what you're putting out there. Because now, if you come to, personally, if somebody comes to me and tell me like, I want you to be doing ads for me. And I'll be like, why are we doing ads? Yet I'm seeing there are so many nitty-gritties that needs to be fixed before now we start. Because now my thinking usually is, yes, we've done an ad. An ad is so perfect, it's so nice. Of course, a client would click to that platform. Click to the profile, if it's Instagram, if it's Facebook, if it's the website. And then when you go there, you find that there's no information. There's no content that you're looking out there to ensure that, you know, inakupatia hiyo psyche, I think I can work with these guys. I think I can buy what these guys are buying. I think this is what I want. So what would you tell the brands out there? What do they need to know? Because if you come and tell me, mi nataka unifanyie marketing, nataka nitengeneze pesa, but I'm looking at your brand and where are we? It is 2026.
I think going back to an earlier conversation we had before we started this podcast, one of the things that I have noticed in digital marketing is that if the brand in question, number one, already has a bad reputation or has questionable situations around their own brand, it's incredibly difficult for you to succeed in digital, even if you're buying ads. Basically, if you're already obscure or you have a mediocre product or service, it's even harder and sometimes even more detrimental to go digital. So the first thing I think you need to do is to kind of look at the brand and say, look, as a brand, first of all, where are we? Audit yourself. Right? Our products performing well, are we already reasonably trusted and established? And I'll give you an example. There's a particular internet service provider we did work for probably almost 10 years ago, and we're very happy to get them on board. They're paying us good money. And then we went to the market and we started doing their work. And all I remember doing is that we'd post something online like an ad, and all you have is something like 200-300 complaints underneath that ad on Facebook, on Instagram, saying, why are you advertising? You haven't reconnected me. Why have you done this? My internet's been dead for 5 days. Why are you doing this? Whatever. So they already had a horrible reputation. And actually running advertising was even worse for them, because imagine other potential customers coming and everything they see on an ad is complaints. Are they going to convert?
Of course not.
The other thing I think brands get wrong is they're spending more time on social media doing what we've always done with analog media, meaning that when we're using billboards, TV, radio, print, we are always pushing to sell. Whereas in social media and digital platforms, storytelling or brand building is more important, where you're sort of sharing information, who we are, what's our culture, what are we about, what do we stand for, what are we doing in the community. So you're basically building a story around the brand. And then at the end of doing the story and giving value to the audience, meaning you're educating them, you're informing them, you're entertaining them through your content, then you do the ask. But if they can't form an opinion at the very beginning around who are these people, what are they about, what are they doing, what is it about them that inspires me to consider their brand, then automatically already that brand is going to be on the back foot, because even when they start running the ads, people can't build a sense of who you are. The same way that I encourage clients, as much as we live in an era where social media dominates attention online, I still recommend you still need a website. Why? Because at some point, someone's going to leave the socials and come to your website and say, who are these guys actually? Who's the manager behind it? Where are their offices? What do they do? And that website will still serve a very important role in building your brand reputation. So those are some of the things that I've noticed in the time that I've been doing this work.
Now, my question would be for somebody maybe who is starting, or for a brand who is starting, what are the 3 major social media platforms you recommend for them today?
Well, I think before I recommend the platforms, because you know there's about 5 to 7 of them that matter the most, right? Those ones now are the biggest ones. I think you need to work backwards. Begin with the end in mind. Right? First of all, who's your target customer? Right? The audience, or the audience that you're trying to reach. Number 2, what is the product or service you offer? Once you understand who the customer
and
and what is it that you're selling exactly, then you can figure it out. So if you look at, say, like someone like me, right? I work in the digital marketing space. I do work for people like banks, insurance companies, real estate companies, etc. So I'm a B2B business. Okay. What does that mean? The platforms that make the most sense for me, probably number one is LinkedIn. Why? LinkedIn is, I always like to say, Facebook with a suit and tie. It's older demographics, it's decision makers, people in their professional spaces. That's where I would need to put in my effort. Number two, which other platform might I consider for that? Maybe, believe it or not, Facebook. Why? Because slightly older demographic, people in decision-making positions, maybe that's the right place. Twitter would probably have been my obvious second choice in the past, but as you know, Twitter/X is not what it used to be. It's become a bit of a mess, right? Number two, if I'm to say using a younger consumer, right, somebody who's a Gen Z, possibly even a millennial, then there are two platforms that immediately come to mind. Number one, Instagram. That is where you want to be, and also probably TikTok. Which trends very well with younger people, but now even shows and kukas are using TikTok.
They are now on TikTok. I've seen anaitwa Vintage Shosho. I don't know if you've seen
I've heard of it,
Vintage Shosho. And she has a lot of followers. The traction there, the comments, everything, people are going to even see her. And she's not even like somebody who's doing a lot. She's just out there cooking, uko hivyo kwa jikoni, anapika chapo yake pale, ako kwa shamba, anachuna. Like, it's so nice, it's so natural, it's so authentic. And I love that. I love that for brands.
And this is the thing I always like to tell people, either as individuals or corporate brands, are you showing up authentically? And I know that this maybe sounds a bit cliche, but authentically means you're not trying to be what you're not. You're simply showing who you are and what you're about. And that's what I do when I blog and all this. My content usually sometimes is very much, in my opinion, it's thoughtful, but I write it in a way that is me. I communicate in a way that's me. That's why, across all the platforms, like now I think I have over 100,000 people. It's built up over time because there's something about that information or that content that resonates with the audience who've decided to follow. And the value they get from that content. And that's the thing, again, it's not even an age thing. It's really about showing up authentically and speaking in a way that people will actually say, I like what that guy has to say. I like what that lady does. And it resonates with me,
Now, in terms of the broader base that you're looking at it, tech, digital, AI and all, what is that one thing or some things that you think you disagree with what is being done out there? I don't know.
I think one of the saddest truths that I've seen is for a long time on social media, we have spent a lot of time with our clients and ourselves building up followers. All right? How many followers do you have? You look at even today, the influencers that get the most money, they're the ones with the followers. So
people tend up to even buy followers for that matter.
But ironically, the followers no longer matter. And I tell you why. Because there's something we call the TikTokification of everything. Or social media in particular. When TikTok came out, the difference between TikTok and other platforms is that TikTok did not show people your content on the basis of how many followers you had. It showed people content based on what you like to consume, which they would call the interest graph, all right? Versus the social graph, which is based on the number of followers you had. And you were getting connections and people seeing your content based on who else was following you. Now, what has this done in the last 3-4 years? It's changed everything about social media because it is no longer a game about followers. It is a game of the quality of your content and then the algorithm matching that content to an audience that wants to see such content. Meaning that on TikTok, you've heard of instances where somebody with even just 40 followers puts something interesting online and he has 3 million views on that video. Exactly. And it's not even about the number of followers he gets immediately, but the content is being consumed by millions of people because the content is somehow aligned to an interest. And those interests have somehow identified that content. The algorithm, for whatever reason, means that, small businesses today, sometimes even on the back of one video, are getting, millions of shillings of business because of that one video. So I think the thing that I would disagree, as you pointed out, is the game is no longer about how many followers do I have, which is what many corporates have been tracking. It's now about how much engagement is that content getting? How much reach? And how is it converting in terms of sales, in terms of business, versus how many followers you have? And that transition changes everything about how you use social media today.
The fact that you've been in the industry for close to 30 years, it means that, I am following you there. I still have like 20 more years to go. So my question would be, what sets you apart? like for somebody maybe starting in digital marketing, how would you advise them to go about in terms of the know-hows, the places to read and learn, what to engage with in terms of digital marketing? How can they go about this thing? Because if you look at everywhere, the content that is being put across is digital marketing. Anybody can learn digital marketing, whether you have a degree, whether you've never even gone to a school, but as long as you understand something, it's a skill that anybody can have. So for somebody who is starting out, what would you advise them?
Maybe the first thing I would tell them is, if you're going into this space now, especially in what I'm now calling the AI era, the first thing is don't do things the way they've always been done. Meaning that as you're adopting or building your skill sets and so forth, start to play with the things that are now becoming current. Play with the AI tools. Use the Google Flows, the ChatGPTs, the image generation, Nano Banana. Learn the new tools. Why? Because the gap between your idea or whatever you're trying to create and actually doing it has become much smaller.
Yes.
All right? Much easier.
Yes.
Number two, as you go into these spaces and you're building these skill sets, the question you need to ask yourself, if it's so commoditized and everyone can do it very easily, what is it that's unique about your approach that sets you apart from anyone else? Meaning that there's only one of one. You need to find that originality that makes you distinctive.
The unique.
I'll give you an example. Look at somebody like the roaming chef. All right? Ombachi. This guy was a rugby player.
Yes.
Now he's one of the biggest content creators on TikTok and Instagram in Africa.
Yes.
People fly out to come to see him.
After nowadays, the comments are usually, like for example, 𝐂𝐴𝐶 is coming to Kenya. So I know by the time the video will be watched, he'll have come. But now you find that the comment section are, afike kwanza, aende kwa balcony ya Ombachi, sorry.
And chances are he might end up there. Even I'm seeing ambassadors and people are spending time with him. He's cooking omena for them and all that. And what I find so amazing about what Ombachi has managed to do, the roaming chef, is he's gone into a completely different line from what he did originally, which was rugby and whatever his profession was. He came up with a unique style. One of the things I always remember about his video is that chopping sound. When he's chopping the done, and then you hear the done. There's a very distinctive fingerprint to how he does his videos. And the way he packages it. And what it is, number one, it's authentically a guy who loves cooking.
True.
And then the way he demonstrates the content style. And I would almost say that each person doing digital marketing, even if you're doing it on behalf of brands and all, can you come up with a fingerprint or a style or a methodology that is you? Originally and uniquely you, so that people kind of identify that. The same way that maybe you look at a blogger like Biko Zulu, who's been on for years. He does long form videos, long form written content. You need to go get a cup of coffee and read his content, right? But if you read them, you'll notice that he has a unique style, a unique fingerprint to the way he does it. And in a world where people are saying you should do short videos only, people happily, in the hundreds of thousands, read his content because it's really, really good.
It's really good.
And then sometimes you find that when it comes to digital marketing, some people are better at video, some people are better at written content. Some people are better at long form video, some people are better at short form content. And like me, for instance, I'm more of a writer than a video guy. I'm learning video, but I've been writing for years. So you find that there's usually something that you're particularly and uniquely suited for. And rather than fearing doing video because many people are not comfortable being on camera, maybe you should be doing written content. Maybe you should be doing short tweets, but think about what is it that comes to you easily? What is it that you do almost without thinking? And if you notice that that's the kind of content that's getting you the most engagement, then double down on that.
Do it.
So that's what I would say. Everyone can do digital marketing, but no one can do digital marketing the way you do it.
You do it. It's your authenticity that will set you apart. What is the current digital or tech trend that you're watching closely?
Well, AI broadly, but probably the part that is just blowing my mind is, obviously, like I just mentioned, I've been fooling around with Google Flow recently, which sits on top of 𝐂𝐴𝐶, unbelievable. But I think for me, the one that is getting me extremely excited is the idea that many AI tools exist, but there's something in particular that I find interesting for my work and what we do. And this is what they call reasoning models. If you look at AI, there's the regular ChatGPT or even Gemini, but there's something called reasoning models. Reasoning models are a higher level of AI where it actually thinks, right? So you put in a request, you put in a prompt, as opposed to giving you something in 2 minutes, it'll probably take 15, 20, 30 minutes because it's doing research, it's going online, it's getting details, it has very little hallucinations, but it's fact-checking. And of course, it costs more money. Like using the paid version of ChatGPT, you only get 25 users of it per month. So it's very expensive to use. But what does that mean? This is the kind of what I call professional grade AI that allows you to do the work that a management consultant at a company like Accenture or PwC would do. You ask it to do something that usually what we call a white collar professional would do. And why am I saying this? These are the kind of tools and AIs that when they say people are going to lose professional jobs, not basic jobs, that's the kind of AI that for me excites me, because it's what I call like the heavy lifting, extremely human-like work that AI can do. And why is that a game changer? Because what it means is that even for SMEs that could not afford a lawyer or could not afford a senior consultant to do certain types of work, that AI can actually do the work of a human. And the word we're using nowadays is agentic AI, right? AIs that are so powerful and intelligent, they essentially assume the role of what used to be done by humans. And that for me, on one hand, I see with a bit of trepidation because it has the potential to replace some of even the most senior types of jobs. But at the same time, it's such a massive opportunity because you as an individual, if you learn how to master and to use agentic AI for your purposes, suddenly you are able to do the work and the quality that maybe required you to spend millions of shillings, and now you're only spending a few thousand shillings to do the same quality of work. And that for me is incredibly exciting because it's the idea that, you know, with agentic AI, you're now doing work that transcends the basic stuff. And now you're talking about super strategic, high value work through AI.
You've answered one very important question that every AI person keeps on asking is AI taking our jobs?
Yeah, absolutely.
You've answered that correct. You have to position yourself.
But AI will create new jobs because now the people who learn how to use the AI to do the work that was previously done by humans at a level that few people understand how to do so will now be able to be extremely valuable to the people who need somebody who can operate AI at a very high level. And this is, I think, the big opportunity here, because let me give you an example. If you go to ChatGPT today, you can put in a normal prompt, hi, I want you to do this. But then at the end of it, you can say, give me a better prompt according to the best way to do this. It then takes your 2-3 lines and makes an entire A4 type document of the prompt done in the most professional way. And then you'll tell it, run the prompt to give me the result I was asking you to begin with. Now, for me, the person who's an amateur will just do the 2-3 lines. The expert will know that I asked the AI to actually give me the prompt and do it as per the expert in that professional industry. And then they'll give him 2 A4 pages of prompt guidance. And then the result they get is that much more superior. So my point is that, today, for instance, is a role called a prompt engineer. This is somebody who's paid money to create the best prompts to give the best results from the very same AI that we all use. It's a career. So again, the operator of the AI is now becoming the most high value person because they are now mastering the AI tools to deliver a much superior outcome from the very same tools that all of us are using. So that could be the new job. You're a video producer, but now become the best Google Flow, Gemini Flow producer for video. You're in the audio space, maybe become the best user of this AI tool like Suno. So I think the opportunity is going to be, rather than sitting there and saying, woe is me, I'm losing my job. Let me use my 10,000 hours of mastery to apply that skill set to the AI, to learn how to use the AI in that particular professional industry at a level that no one else can do to my level. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, absolutely. Makes sense, kabisa. Because that bit of prompt engineer, I'm learning that bit also. I'm in that space of just learning.
Trying to learn how to do it better.
To the best of the best. Those prompts, I want by the time I'm giving you something, you wouldn't even think that it's an AI that has done it because it is thorough, you know. Yeah, so that is also a space that personally I'm also going into, just having the best of the prompts. Sawa sawa. So Moses, I just wacha nikuulize swali that is more you, like in terms of what is one project that you've done, maybe in the companies that you've worked with, and to date, you feel like nobody has ever done something like that?
Well, in a career that goes...
Bado, it is being done, but bado.
That no one else has done to that extent, or something that I'm extremely proud of.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know. It depends. You know, talking about a career in a business that's been around for almost 30 years, there's so many highs and lows and things that have happened. But one I think that comes to mind, and it's not a recent one, but I'll never forget when we did work for the Kenya National Examinations Council.
Okay.
And we built the very first website they had that allowed students to check their KCP and KCSE results, or the parents. We did the very first tool that allowed you to go to that website, put in the student number.
Which year was this?
This was 2000 and... Could it have been even 2005 or 2006, 7? Over 20 years ago.
Okay.
We're the ones who built the first website that could do that for Kenya National Examinations Council. Yes.
That's so nice.
And you got to remember, this was, but it was such a journey into the unknown, because first of all, we didn't know whether the server would be able to handle the demand. Of course, internet audiences or users were very small at that point in the country.
There was no,
It was a unique technology we had to build from scratch, you know, using databases, and they provided us with the results very confidentially. And we did it, and we pulled it off. And if I remember correctly, even those days, the site never broke down.
So the first day that thing went operational,
we did it.
Yeah, how?
We built it. Of course, we're extremely proud.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a journey into the unknown because it had never been done before. So I was very, very proud of that.
Yeah.
I think more recently, maybe one example I can think of is some work we did for one of the internet service providers. And it was them in conjunction with one of the big tech companies. And what we're doing was showcasing how internet access empowers, or digital inclusivity allows, you know, students who are blind, or students who are you know, have mental health challenges and so forth. We were able to create a series of videos where we went across different parts of the country to showcase how technology is enabling and empowering, you know, people with disabilities and so forth, specifically children in various educational institutions across the country, showing how internet access to AI and so forth is empowering people of this nature. And for me, that is very powerful work, because it means that we're no longer just doing the technology side, we're no longer just doing social media content, but we're actually going out, we're scripting, we're storyboarding, we're working with our video production partners to create a story for a client that then goes online on platforms like YouTube and so forth. In this case, that video or that production was used to showcase how the big tech organization and the local internet service provider that reaches underserved communities across the country to showcase how they are doing this on the ground. So you can imagine we're driving to locations, we're shooting, we're scripting, we are, and for me, this is really powerful because it means that as a company now, we have the ability to do what I'd call world-class storytelling through digital media.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
And I like that bit of storytelling, because through and through, your story matters. Like how you portray the information you want out there through stories is very important. Oh, wow, the KCP one is a big for me.
Yeah,
I'm like,
we're the first ones to do it.
If it was in 2005,
it was that far back, probably 20 years ago, as I recall. It was a big deal at the time.
Yeah, that's a big project. That's really a big project. So what's your favorite tool in digital marketing?
What's my favorite?
Favorite tool?
If it comes to creating content, publishing content, I mean, there's so many tools, but I have to say that I'm a big savant when it comes to Canva.
Okay.
Canva is one of my favorite tools. I think I've used it for about 10 years. There's another brilliant tool I use for audio transcription called 𝐓𝐡𝐚𝐭. This really helps me with post-production on things like my podcasts and stuff. I pay for ChatGPT. I use that a lot. Google Gemini comes to us at work through our workspace accounts with Google. And yeah, increasingly of late, when it comes to AI, one of my favorite tools, without a doubt, has to be Nano Banana. I really enjoy creating visuals on Nano Banana, and I share them. But I just feel like, you know, for me, I'm very fortunate because it almost feels sometimes like my hobbies and my work are almost the same things. And I'm been able to apply that in my work at .savvy from a digital marketing standpoint for our clients. I, as a content creator myself, as a podcaster, as a blogger, I play with these things as well. And the fact that, you know, it's a very unique place to be where literally almost your hobbies and your work are one and the same thing. And to play with these tools and see the progression in the 30 years where we've come from on the internet, where we are now, for me, it's just so exciting. It's so exciting. That's so nice.
I had a question for you. Like, while you were starting this journey to where you are right now, what has been the biggest challenge across the years?
The biggest challenge is, especially from the business side of things, is how do you stay relevant when everything around you is changing? Right? When we first started our company, what were we doing? We were building websites. Somewhere along the way, social media became a thing. Somewhere along the way, content production becomes a thing. Somewhere along the way, AI becomes a thing. So the biggest challenge for me is, if you're going to stay relevant in places like digital or technology, you have to be the constant learner. At an individual level, in your own leadership position, and then even across your organization. And even in my own company, I'm always questioning my team members, how are you doing this? In the AI era, are you still doing it that way? Is there a way that you used to do it? And I'll give you an example. Recently, for instance, we have something called Shutterstock that we use for online photography. For many years, that's where you'd grab your images and customize them and post online. Apparently, for the better part of the last year, we don't use it anymore.
So now
why are you using AI? We're using different tools. And what I'm trying to say is that era has ended where you were so reliant on stock photography and now you're doing things differently. Tools are changing. How do you do this? How do you do that? You know, I always like to tell people, for instance, that note takers, which we have now in all our meetings, Zoom calls or Google meetings, etc., are so invaluable now, because a poor person used to sit there, take notes, type them, write them, and now all they need to do is take that recording, convert it into a logical structure, and now your meeting notes are captured.
There's something I saw, I think it was in whose podcast, there's somebody I saw, they have a machine that is like this one. So when we are talking, we are just like this, and it records everything.
I do it all the time with my phone. I go into meetings, I ask for consent, physical meetings. I record the audio. I have one of these new Samsungs, which can actually transcribe on the phone itself. But usually what I'll do is I'll take the recording, I'll upload it to Otter. I remember who was talking, I'll label them and say, okay, give me my meeting notes. And then also I can use that information to generate action points, etc. I remember before we used to have to, even if you got the recording, you manually listen or you're taking notes. I no longer need to do that. So I think ultimately, you know, I call it, don't give a human a robot's job, right? You want to make sure the human focuses on the important stuff. And then the stuff that can be done using AI or tools, let the AI do that, you know?
Now I have a question now in terms of the projects and all, not like you, but what you've seen out there. Who is that brand that has really stood out for you in terms of what they are doing out there?
In Kenya, globally?
In Kenya, wacha tuanze na kwetu. In Kenya, and then we can go globally. But
somebody who has stood out to me in Kenya.
If it's a person or it's a brand that is doing that work.
Within digital, within technology?
Digital, in terms of digital technology and everything that we're discussing. Like when you see their content, you can't miss even to give them a like.
Wow. I don't know. I mean, if we're talking about content that I consume or content that I find interesting, there's so many good ones. But probably one of the ones I really like and I follow quite religiously is maybe people like Financially Incorrect.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you've heard of them. I've been a guest on their podcast.
I was once.
I like what they're doing there. I like the
Yeah.
stories they're sharing. I like the things, the insights they're putting out to the world.
Okay.
Because a lot of it, really is helpful. One of my good friends and also a peer in the industry is somebody called 𝐂𝐴𝐵. He runs a podcast called Ali Talks Tech. He writes about fintech and other things of that nature.
Okay.
He's very, very big on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Somebody I really admire and sort of enjoy consuming what he has to share online. So for me, I think those are two examples that I think are interesting. And I think in the technology space, I mean, there are companies that I just truly, truly admire. Like one of them is 𝐵𝑒𝑠𝑎𝑝𝑎𝑙.
𝐵𝑒𝑠𝑎𝑝𝑎𝑙.
I know the founder. We kind of came up through the same route of building websites and stuff, and then he forked off to doing fintech.
Yeah.
But when you look at a company like 𝐵𝑒𝑠𝑎𝑝𝑎𝑙, very local, Kenyan run, Kenyan owned, Kenyan managed. They've built an incredible footprint across the region. They recently got investment from KCB.
Okay.
They're automating petrol stations. They're doing so much stuff. And the thing about them, you don't hear them, kind of hyping things. They just sort of seem to focus on their work, doing the work, building the innovations, getting clients. And there's almost quietly successful behind the scenes. But for me, I like that kind of entrepreneur. I like that kind of a company because they're all about getting the stuff done. Unfortunately, in the Silicon Savannah, there's a lot of people in the technology space who are all about the talking and the hype, but they don't have substance.
Yeah.
And me, I'm the kind of person that when I think about entrepreneurship, like people like 𝐵𝑒𝑠𝑎𝑝𝑎𝑙, I focus on doing stuff that brings revenue. Yeah. Not doing things that make you look good.
Look busy.
And that's why you're seeing a lot of good startups have gone out of business in Kenya, in the technology space, because they were focusing more on raising rounds and doing the hype, as opposed to building a business that is built to last. Yeah. And those are some of the people and the organizations that come to mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, have you come across, for example, a brand like KFC Kenya? Have you seen their social media? What do you think of that type?
I think it's incredible. It's very localized, very Kenyan relevant.
Yes.
Even this character where they're saying, designer alikuwa kwa blankets and wine, kwa sherehe. Yes. And I think what they've done is they managed to capture the Kenyan psyche. Yes. They managed to create something that is incredibly local, even if they're a global brand. And over the years, I've actually shared posts online about billboards I've seen of KFC, people like Carrefour, where they're able to take a global brand and give it a Kenyan flavor, in their marketing and communication. So I think some incredible work there that their agencies are doing with them. Yeah,
that KFC thing is like every day I have to go to KFC platform
to see what's happening
and just laugh and have my day, because they make my day every day. Yeah. And Kitambo, back in the days, I can say maybe like in 2017, 2018, it was more of KCB. Yeah. KCB was also in that space. I don't know nowadays.
But you see, this is the thing I was trying to tell you earlier. You see, even within social media, transitions have happened. Yeah. When you're talking about the early days of Facebook and Instagram, you probably have to say people like KCB, CoBank were the leaders. Yeah. In terms of doing creative, locally relevant content and all. Yeah. And subsequently, if you look at what KFC are doing, is predominantly on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. And even then, it's just cartoons, really. It's cartoons, they overlay, and it's narrative, very simple visuals, but it's resonating with people. Everywhere. It's connecting with people. Yeah. And I think that's always the challenge for brands and organizations in KFC, because what made you successful 5 years ago or 10 years ago is not working anymore. True. That story of followers has ended. It's now about content. Content is what generates the visibility.
Content is king.
Yeah. So as these things keep evolving and changing, even within social media, the big pressure on and also reading the audience, the community around the platforms, how a Gen Z consumer relates to something is different to a millennial or a Gen X like me. Yeah. So also moving with the generations is also critical, and creating content that resonates with them is critical. Because the great thing is that when you think about how the world evolves, it's the children or the young people that show us the way. That's why TikTok is now mainstream. It started with the kids and now everyone does it. Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with you. As we're winding up, I have some rapid fire questions for you. Easy to
Which I'm completely unprepared for.
Which is good, because I don't want you to be prepared. I want you to think about it. So in terms of tech advice, what do you disagree with? Any advice you've come across tech, but you're like,
Today, the one that I would disagree with the most is the thing that we parents have been telling our children for years, is go learn how to code. We've been telling kids for years, go learn how to do code. Today, as we speak, 30% of the software generated by Google and by Microsoft is done through AI.
Of course, yes.
So what that means is that those jobs that we thought were safe for the next 20 years, by and large, are being replaced using AI.
So they should learn even AI more.
Remember what I said earlier?
Yeah.
Don't be the coder. Learn the person who knows how to tell the AI how you want it to generate your code.
Can I tell you something? I did my website recently all through AI.
Replit or Lovable?
Lovable.
There you go.
I did Lovable, and it is perfect. The only thing that is remaining is just hosting, and I did it with AI.
Yeah.
And it was just, like I was building it with prompts.
Yeah.
This is what I want. This is
So what does
I'm
that mean
looking
for web designers and front-end developers? And
they need to ensure that they learn these things. Yeah.
because remember, it won't be, as they keep saying, you will not be replaced by the AI, but quite often you'll be replaced by the person who knows how to use the AI.
Yeah.
So the operator of the AI is now the strategic asset, not the AI itself.
Yeah. Okay. Good question. If you are not doing digital marketing, what would you be doing? If, for example, your career wasn't in digital marketing and all, would you be a farmer?
I have ambitions or dreams of grandeur.
Okay.
Where I either A, become a full-time writer, or B, become a full-time photographer, believe it or not. Those are two areas that I have so much desire to learn. If I could just have the time, I'd want to just learn how to do photography well. And concurrently, I would like to learn how to write even better, probably put out books.
Can I tell you
on
something?
A full-time basis.
You made me remembered. Last year, there was like an era of so many weddings, so many high-end weddings were being done. And from it, I came to learn that there's a photographer in Europe who is being paid 2.5 billion Kenyan shillings per session in weddings. And in the wedding, the photographer that doesn't take photos of the guests in the wedding, just the bride and the groom.
But it's the way he takes them.
Yo. I was like...
Now, let me tell you something crazy.
And his hot cake.
Let me tell you something. The people who are going to benefit the most in the AI era are those who've elevated their craft or their trade to such a level that they're irreplaceable and unable to be copied. Meaning that when I think of a writer who I believe is irreplaceable, is somebody like Stephen King. If you read Stephen King over the years, I mean, he's probably written over 100 books. And when I was growing up as a teenager and all the years I've been reading, I mean, I admire his style of writing to a level I can't explain. When I read even somebody like 𝐂𝐿, the way he writes is so unique. It's so, artistic in the way that he does his work. Those are the people who are going to thrive going forward. And for me, the biggest moat you can build around yourself in the AI era is if you have that unique skill or unique capability,
go for it.
Go so deep into it that nobody can replace you. Even I was listening to a podcast on my way here, and one of the things they're saying is right now, we should be telling our kids to become electricians and plumbers. Because now people need electricians for data centers. More than anything else. Plumbers, because there's no way an AI yet is going to be able to do what a plumber can do. Think about it.
Okay. I saw a billionaire. There's this guy that interviews the billionaires around the world. It's called the School of Hard Knocks. I don't know if you've interacted
They're on
with
holiday.
Yeah. So there's this guy who is just a plumber, and that guy is a billionaire in the US. Plumbing.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so dope. Like, there's some works you look at them and you're like, hii kazi iko na pesa kidogo, but I also think that it's about positioning and how you package yourself.
Yeah, and this is why I was saying that there's a real opportunity out there because we live in a world where the weapons of mass distraction. So something I can tell you about kind of mastery or getting to a point where you can be really exceptional at something from what I've seen. In a world of so many distractions, your phone notifications, the radio is playing in the corner, people interrupting you. There's a book I apparently have somewhere that I've not fully read, but it says that the people are able to kind of block out distractions and have a singular focus for 4 hours, 6 hours, and do nothing else. And do that repeatedly, consistently, religiously, in a very disciplined manner. Will become some of the biggest successful people in the future because it is that ability to go very deep that is going to really act as that barrier to even things like AI. And even me when I'm writing or creating content, like I'm writing a blog post or I'm writing a nice social media post without any form of AI. This is just Moses direct.
You from your
And quite often to do this well, I have to turn off the things, my internet. I'll even turn off the internet.
Yeah.
And I'll start writing from memory, from inspiration. And you get into what they call the flow state.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most magical moments that I can't even imagine AI achieving, because you just go into a place that is almost religious, almost spiritual.
Nobody
and you
else
can't even say that it's you writing, because you're literally, your fingers are just typing. The words are just coming. And it's magical. And that moment of creation is something that is truly special. But I'm convinced that, just like you mentioned, the guy of the wedding, that guy has achieved that level of mastery, and ability and creativity. And I think the people who we tend to love on content creation, or when we're consuming content online, are people who are sort of hitting that level. To where you're like, that guy, Mr. Beast will not be replaced by AI.
True.
There is no way that's going to happen. So just think about the fact that if we invest more in our trade, in our craft, in our competencies around certain skill sets, that in itself should allow you to rise above AI, in my opinion.
Thank you. That's a dope one. Lastly, as we finish, what's your one word for African digital future? Greatly
underrated. And let me tell you why. Because Africa, as we speak, has the youngest population globally. What this also means is that we have probably the most people who are digital native globally on a per capita basis. Now, if you look at the West, you'll notice that there's almost like a, I don't even want to call it a desire or push. There's almost like a mandate.
In Nigeria, for example.
No, globally now. I'm talking about globally. Where they're trying to create AIs that replace humans at a ridiculous rate. Think about autonomous vehicles, right? They're pushing like crazy in America to get to the point in certain markets where labor costs are high to essentially replace humans wherever possible. They want to use technology to lower the cost of service delivery or product production, whatever it is, to the point where the human is not needed. We, on the other hand, have a massive advantage. This massive young pool of talent across the continent. Super young, super digital savvy. They know they're digital. They're ready to work. They're ready to do things. I think Africa is underrated in that digital future because at some point, if you think about the fact there's this young, motivated, highly creative talent base of young people who are digital natives. Imagine what you could do with that, even in the AI era.
I know.
If we harness it properly, if we leverage it properly, we can become global leaders on some of these fronts when it comes to AI and digital. And it's just a question of, at the most basic level, the governments, the people leading the organizations of this era need to recognize that and figure out how can we turn this into a disruption. This massive labor, this massive talent base of young people who are ready and willing to harness these technologies and take them to the next level. We are super underrated in that sense. And why I'm saying this is because when all the platforms and all are built, who's going to operate them?
Of course.
Who's going to be the one who gains mastery over them? We can be those people.
So we just need to immerse ourselves into it. So thank you so much, Moses. For followers, where can we get you? Are you on Facebook, Instagram, X, your name?
So me, I'm a digital native, or rather than an immigrant, meaning I put myself out there everywhere. So if you go to TikTok, go to Instagram, whatever, just look for Moses Kemibaro. Most platforms, it's at Moses Kemibaro. I have a website that I've been running a blog for a long time, moseskemibaro.com. And pretty much, if you just Google me or, even ChatGPT, you will find me.
You are there. That is where I got you from.
17, 18 years of putting out content, you can't miss me. I'm out there.
Okay, so thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll still urge you that you subscribe to our Take It From Me channel. Continue giving us the numbers. We're also on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. Take It From Me is the name. And thank you so much for the support. Every time we put our content out there, interact with us, ask questions, and every time you're also inviting the guests, you can always drop your questions so that the content resonates with what you want. So asanteni sana, until next time. Thank you.